It is Monday, August 11th, and Dems flabbergasted this morning as to why the president's federalizing DC. Also, California Governor Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass under the microscope after Trump confirming they are, in fact, slow-walking the permitting process in LA and Pacific Palisades. Purposely, he says, to build affordable housing. Yes, wasn't that a conspiracy? Once again, it turns out to be true, and China's Navy epically trolled this weekend. We're going to show you why, and more stories as well from around the country.
You know, my father always used to tell me, I had a wonderful father, very smart, and he used to say, son, when you walk into a restaurant and you see a dirty front door, don't go in, because if the front door is dirty, the kitchen's dirty also. Same thing with the Capitol. If our Capitol's dirty, our whole country is dirty, and they don't respect us. So it's a very good question, actually.
So President Trump going on offense, invoking the DC Home Rule Act to temporarily federalize the District of Columbia, a law that grants the president the authority to take federal control of the Metropolitan Police Department in DC. It also gives him the authority to deploy the National Guard onto the streets of DC. But what's important, what matters here, from their point of view, is taking command and control of the DC Metro Police. We'll explain why we think he's doing this in a minute. Announcing this move at this morning's White House press conference, flanked by his Attorney General, the FBI Director, SecDef Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of the Army, and the new DC Attorney General, announcing Washington, D.C. is now under federal control.
And we're here for a very serious purpose, very serious purpose. Something's out of control, but we're going to put it in control very quickly like we did on the southern border. I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that.
Trump saying this is Liberation Day in D.C. We are taking our capital back, and then going on to drop the real bomb on the pro-crime Dem cities around the country, saying, you are next. We know New York's watching. We know Chicago's watching. Incompetent J.B. Pritzker, he says, we know you're watching. And watch closely, because if you don't clean up your streets fast, if you don't immediately repeal cashless bail and begin prioritizing law-abiding citizens over these thugs, your city is next.
You expect more cities to follow DC's path if this goes through. So the idea is that Chicago, LA, San Francisco, would they expect similar action what we've seen in DC?
We're going to have a tremendous success in what we're doing. Other cities are hopefully watching this. They're all watching, just like everyone's watching here. They're all watching, and maybe they'll clean up, and maybe they'll do this and get rid of the cashless bail thing and all of the things that caused the problem. I mean, if you go back, this whole thing with cashless bail is a disaster. So many problems came that we never had before. So they're watching us today, and if they don't learn their lesson, if they haven't studied us properly, because we're going to be very successful. I have zero doubt about that. It's going to be. It's a question of will it be really fast, like the border. You know, everyone said, they used to say, Biden used to say, I need legislation. I didn't get any legislation. I called up our people, and we did a great job. Tom Homan was great. As you know, our secretary did a great job. They did a great job. There's no games. They didn't play games. And we're going to have the same thing here. But then I'm going to look at New York in a little while. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's see. It's going to go pretty quickly. And if we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster. We have a mayor there who's totally incompetent. He's an incompetent man. And we have an incompetent governor there. Pritzker's an incompetent. His family threw him out of the business, and he ran for governor. And now I understand he wants to be president. But I noticed he lost a little weight, so maybe he has a chance. You know, you never know what happens.
Mainstream media was aghast by this, being taken completely by surprise. Apparently, no leaks came out about this beforehand, some of them having legit panic attacks on air. But the main takeaway seems to be nobody's sure why the Trump administration's doing this now. Why use all this political capital and do this now? Watch.
Why is this issue, and again, you're going to get into the fact check of what is wrong about his figures or not, but why is this the top of the President of the United States agenda today? And I think that's an important question for us to think about as we think about everything that's on his plate. Why is taking over law enforcement in the District of Columbia? Now, he made the argument as to why, and that it's a capital city, and that the way he sees it is that it is crime-ridden and needs to be changed. But still, why is the President of the United States putting that front and center? So that's a question I sort of try to think about.
From your perspective, is the purpose of this action purely to have just a massive show of force on the streets of D.C., or in practice, is there anything that will be done differently with the police department under federal control?
To divine what the purpose is of this deployment of National Guard assets, what this reallocation of things like FBI agent resources to patrol the streets of DC, it really it raises some important questions. Like, what is it? Why this production? Why this kind of Potemkin village of criminal intervention in a city? What is this designed to distract us from? I don't know that I can answer that for you here, but...
So what we do know is the Trump administration's been fighting these sanctuary cities for months, all of them refusing to work with ICE, Chicago PD, LAPD, NYPD, Boston PD. What do all of these sanctuary city police departments have in common? They are not allowed, legally not allowed to help ICE, even though they have thousands of illegals in custody on any given day, or had in custody, and now they have their addresses, something which would make ICE's job much easier, much safer. But due to these sanctuary state laws, they aren't allowed to provide that info to ICE. Well, taking federal control over the police department, taking command and control, means they now have access to all that information. Rolling this out in DC first, seeing if it's worth pursuing in these other sanctuary states. Will it make a difference, a big enough difference to use the political capital required to do it outside of DC? I think that may be what's happening here, because you know what they're going to say, that Trump is militarizing our streets. That takes political capital. His poll numbers will go down for that. MSNBC melting down over this and utterly perplexed that somehow Trump won over the DC mayor. This was interesting. How exactly did he manage to do that? Watch these anchors' faces when they expect DC Mayor Bowser to fight back against Trump like she's always done, only to find out she supports him now. This was great. Watch.
One of the things that we have seen over and over from the president, from his team, Stephen Miller saying it's like Baghdad in Ethiopia. They seem to hold their harshest criticism sometimes for cities that are majority black and brown. Do you see that, and what do you think that means?
I think that I have been dealing kind of with this issue for a number of years. It's kind of easy fodder on the campaign trail. But now we're talking about governing, and my job is to focus on making sure our city is running well, and people enjoy a great quality of life. And I think we're doing a really good job. We do need the federal government's help, as I mentioned, because they have an outsized influence on our criminal justice system. We need more prosecutors. We need more judges. There are other ways to help. Even we want to rebuild our jail, and there are ways that the feds can help with that. But also just doing their part, cutting the grass, fixing the fountains, making sure that federal law enforcement is doing all of the policing that they can do. And I just have to say thank you to MPS, FBI, ATF, who've always worked cooperatively with us, and we expect that they will again.
What exactly just happened here? This lady is a Trump hater through and through. Did Kash Patel J. Edgar Hoover this lady? That's what it looks like. Videos posted on social media last night showing federal authorities already cleaning up DC this weekend. The 5 people arrested were in possession of illegal firearms, some of them drug possession. Additionally, there are plans in the works to relocate the homeless population out of DC as well. Let me know what you think about that. Then, during this morning's press conference, President Trump saying he will be fighting back against California Governor Gavin Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass. He'll be fighting on behalf of the citizens of Pacific Palisades, the families that lost their homes to the LA fires, confirming at this press conference this morning that California, he says, is purposely slow-walking the permitting process. We reported on this the other day, how few permits have been issued. It's been 6 months. Over 1,000, like 1,200 applications have been filed with LA to rebuild their homes, and only 112 permits have been issued so far, or 168, something like that. Why? President Trump saying they're slow-walking the process purposely because they want to force these families out to build low-income, affordable housing. Watch.
What they had suffered, almost 25,000 homes. And you see what's happening now. They didn't give their permits. I went to a town hall meeting. I said, we're going to get you the federal permits, which are much harder. Almost immediately, Lee Zeldin is a star. He did an incredible job. They have all their federal permits. They don't have their city permits. And the mayor said to me, we think we could have them in 2 years. I was walking down the street, and I met with firemen and police. And I was saying hello to many people that were standing in front of their homes with yellow tape. You can't go in. You can't go onto the lot. And those people wanted to start rebuilding their homes then and there. And the mayor said, we should be able to get them the permits within 2 years. I said, that's a shame. 2 years? Are you kidding? I'm going to get them the federal permit like almost immediately. 2 years. And she roared back, well, maybe 1 year. The place was booing her out of the place. They don't have their permits to build their homes. And now they're talking about putting, this is among the most beautiful areas in the country. Now they're talking about putting low-income housing there. Can you believe this? I love low-income housing. I made money with low-income housing. I built low-income housing. I know more about low-income housing and luxury housing. I know about everything real estate. They want to replace some of those homes with low-income housing.
Gavin Newsom told us this was dangerous misinformation, even though he's on camera admitting his plan to reimagine LA after these fires. We have journalists in the days after the fires reporting City Council was already in talks to rezone these lots. All of that, Dems told us, was conspiracy. It wasn't happening. Well, now we know it is. The President of the United States confirming they are actively trying to do this and saying he's fighting back. He's already fast-tracked and approved almost 100% of the federal permits and will be taking this fight to Newsom and Karen Bass to get your local permits approved. And good riddance. In another story, China is getting epically trolled on social media after a show of force went horribly wrong over the weekend. A Chinese Coast Guard ship ended up crashing directly into a Chinese Navy destroyer as both ships were chasing a Philippine Coast Guard ship in the South China Sea over the weekend. The Chinese trying regularly to intimidate other countries who are using the waterways in the South China Sea. In this case, these Philippine patrol boats were escorting dozens of fishing boats, granting them safe passage from the Chinese when China's Navy tried to block them and fire water cannons at them. The Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson saying the Chinese Coast Guard ship performed a risky maneuver during the chase, leaving it unseaworthy after the collision. That's gotta hurt. You know the CCP will be filtering this video, banning it on Chinese social media. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.